Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Karen Mikowski. I'm the lead investigator on any of my parapsychology and paranormal investigations. What an interesting day. I've literally just caught the Washington State, Idaho police conference regards to the suspect they arrested in connection to or suspected of murdering those 4 students. Okay, well, there's a reason why I'm doing this video, and there's a reason why I'm discussing this, because I'll come back to that in a moment. Now, I was one of those people, obviously because of what I do. I believe it was actually, is it 12? Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm getting everything correct, because this is going to be important. Why on earth I staple things I don't know? 26th of April, sorry, no, not 26th of April. Everything that I'm discussing is incredibly important and needs to be said. I need to say it because, again, when it comes to parapsychology, paranormal science, my field cannot be proven or disproven, and the only way I can test the theories of my field as a scientist and as a doctor, I'm all about the data. The data will eventually be the proof of this, a lot more to my field. Now, there was, so on the December the 12th, I sent my tip in to the tip line at ci.moscow.id.us. I basically just explained, because what was happening was, I know the case was going a bit cold, and it was becoming stagnant, and I didn't really have an interest in this case or anything, but I was very aware of it, obviously nationwide we all were, and it was absolutely devastating to sort of see that. Now, on this particular day, there was just something about, I don't know, I felt like, it felt, call it my intuition, because my intuition's out there, but it felt like I got kicked in the stomach. Like, I felt like there's something about this case that is resonating to an investigation I worked on last April. And here's how I'm going to be taking that to this. So I'm going to try and keep it as, there's still a few little things that I'm going to keep private and confidential, due to the fact that I'm going to be sending a list of things, and these, obviously the report to Dennis Rice, I believe, who's at the FBI, who's on this case. There's a few things that I personally think he needs to look into. But there was just something about this case that was kicking me in the gut, and it was not shifting at all since November. And it's like, what is it about this case? There's something triggering something from my LTM. And obviously, so I basically sent this particular day, I don't know, it was resonating to do with, I'll come to it. There is a video link to the parapsychology investigation case PDPC02. It's a video chat I did, I discussed about my findings last April 2020. I'm so sorry. I've just recently had surgery and I'm still a little bit, so please bear with me. This was to do with a case last April I worked on, and it was absolutely horrific and graphic. Now, you can watch that video, and I will obviously put the link in here too, but I couldn't understand, and again, because it's parapsychology, I couldn't understand whether this guy was already active or was going to become active. But the first thing I heard when connected to energy was year 2023. I'm going to come back to that in a moment. So anyway, on the 12th of December, I kept this feeling in my gut said, there's just something about this case, these students' murder, and my case, my serial killer. Let's be real. This guy who killed these students is a serial killer. I don't know what it was. So he's a serial killer. And then I kept feeling like, is this same guy my serial killer that I investigated, that I saw, that I had the interaction with back in April 2021? Again, everything's dated, reports done, everything's time-stamped for a reason, because it's also research. And again, it's because of my field. It's very complex. So I basically thought, well, you know, these investigators, this case seems to be going stagnant. It's not, let me just send my concerns, because there was something about it. There was something triggering, little bits that were resonating. And I'm going to discuss a few things from the report, but again, I'm going to keep a few things left held back to. Now, because that, obviously, you were probably going to learn a lot more about this guy anyway in 2023, which is exactly why 2023 was so important. But yeah, like I said, I got this really strange feeling that there was something to do with this case, and it was connected to my case, and it was just like, oh man. So that's why I sent this video link to that tip line. Now, what I did was I went back to my case, I pulled it out the filing cabinet, and then I rewatched the video that I did last year, and it's like, oh God, seriously. You've got to remember one thing. When it comes to paranormal science and parapsychology, there's so much room for interpretation. What I can hear, clairaudience and things like this when I'm tapping into my abilities, what I can hear, feel, sense and see, etc., and smell, everything, all clairsentiences. I can hear it, but it can mean something else. It can mean something similar. It could mean there's something to do with, like one thing could mean a variation of things. That's why you always have to have an open mind when it comes to my field. You cannot be just that way or no way. No. And if you're going to come into, and if you're going to try and come into my field and understand my field with your beliefs, with your limited beliefs, you're not going to believe anything, because you're not going to be able to open your mind enough to believe in the possibility of anything either. So if you want to sort of watch what I do, you're going to have an open mind, and that's it. You can believe in whatever you want to, but you're going to have to understand me, you need an open mind. Now, so now we know what we're dealing with, a serial killer. Well, when I go back to my case, this guy, he was a young guy. I thought he looked like early 30s, mid 30s. But this guy today, and I believe his name is, let me find his name, Brian Christopher Koberger. Now, he's 28. Oh God. So as I saw his picture today, because like I said, today on the 30th of December 2022, I came across a feed and I'm like, ugh. Oh God, this is why I'm doing this, and this is why I had to watch that news conference. I couldn't figure out, they didn't know who they were dealing with, and I couldn't, but I had a visual with my interaction with a serial killer. I saw what he looked like and everything, and he was a really good looking guy, brown hair, brown eyes. He looks like the boy next door. You would not ever think he's a serial killer. He's oh God. And you know, I'm going to come back to what I'm going to discuss from the report, but as soon as I saw his picture, I'm like, oh God, you look very familiar. And this is why I'm like, there is something with this case that is resonating with mine. And like I say, once I saw him, I'm like, yeah, but you're 28. I mean, you do look a bit older than you don't look 20. You could look older. Now, the fact that he's a student makes sense. We've got to be really careful. Just please, whatever I'm going to start discussing in this, you can interpret it in many different ways. When it comes to law enforcement, I only want them to take, especially the FBI, in the data report, what resonates more and what you can work with, and basically use some of that to question this guy. This guy, if he's my guy, and I'm going to call him my guy because, like I say, I foresaw when I was connected to him, I was seeing, it was hard to say whether he was already active, whether he was already on the FBI's observational list. I don't know. Or if he was going to become active in 2023, or we're going to hear about him in 2023. 2023 was the first thing I heard. And we're literal days away from 2023. This guy was arrested, right? We are mere days away from 2023. We haven't heard, and apparently, due to Idaho State, I believe, they can't discuss their findings or anything until they bring him into the state. So a lot of the information apparently is closed off. Okay, well, what we're going to hear about this guy in 2023, if he's truly the murderer of these students, yeah, he's a serial killer. And I have a 75% strong feeling he's my serial killer. And in 2023 is the most important year that he comes to light. Or he was going to be found in 2023. He was going to be stopped in his tracks. Well, he already became active. But I feel like 2023 is about the year we hear about him and we learn about. And this guy, Ted Bundy, had nothing on this guy. And again, you can watch the video. But having found out today, he was already studying for a PhD in criminology. Yeah, this guy, right? And I'm going to say one thing. The weapon of choice he was using in my day, and I'm not going to mention that because the FBI needs that, but not the public right now. It will come out. It will come. If it's meant to be, it will come to light. But anyway, the method and the weapon of choice and the method in the killing of what I was seeing is different to what he did with his students. And the reason for that was, my first intuitive thought was, I'm not surprised by that. If he's going into criminology and he's into serial killers and is researching killings and things like this, and I believe he was doing a research project where I had to look at it, but I'll put the picture in the. I'll put everything I've got on this guy. I'm not surprised. This guy was learning about criminology. Of course, he's gonna change his MO so he can stay off the radar. So it's hard to find, but he is young. And I still feel like, I don't know what it is about today, but it's weird. I will still feel connected to this. I don't know. There's something very good, amazing in the energy where I feel like I'm still tapped in to his profile. Understanding what he was studying in explains everything. He was just like a little bit like Ted Bundy. Educated, very smart, or maybe big ego. Thought he'd never get caught. Changed his MO because again, Ted Bundy went for the students and young women, but then he went for a child. So again, if you're that sort of psychopath, and I'll tell you something else about my serial killer. He's a silent psychopath. Now I don't know if that means anything to the FBI or profilers or anything like this, but I do believe there's a difference in psychopaths. You've got your loud, but again, I don't know how they would use that loud or noisy, but the quiet psychopath for me is this guy, my serial killer. He blends in. Like Ted Bundy was, you would not look at Ted Bundy and go, oh my God, you're a serial killer. You can't shut me up. I can't go home with you. No. If that guy, that Ted Bundy had a smile, my serial killer had a killer smile. The first thing I noticed when I'm intrigued to see or find a picture of this guy, this Brian Koberger. I want to see his smile, because I have a horrible feeling that if there is a picture roaming about him with a smile, it's going to freak me out. Like, oh God, that's it. It's the killer smile. But it's almost like, but that could be interpreted a welcoming persona, like Ted Bundy, where you would not fear him. You'd be like, oh, yeah, sure. Oh God, it's kind of scary. But this guy, this Brian, he has that same look, that same. You would not think butter would melt in that. Okay, he might be known a bit of a douchebag maybe, or very quiet. But this guy is, if he's my guy, if this Brian is my guy, he's got friends. He knows how to blend in. It's hard to explain. I'll revert to the report in a moment, because it's just, he has it's almost like he has a profile persona, and then he has a completely different persona too, like his own characteristics. It's really weird, but obviously it's inevitable he was going to get caught. We have amazing technology, etc. today, and great investigators. So, you know, no. It's not like back in the day. But I feel like there was some sort of a connection to, and the first thing I heard as well was this guy, Ted Bundy, has nothing on this guy. So if we were to compare them today, maybe Ted Bundy was a bit clumsy, tried to outsmart. This guy may have like looked at Ted Bundy and gone, oh, how about I don't make your mistakes? How about I maybe change my MO more? Or he would have liked to if he was going to remain active. I don't know if any of this is making sense to people, but I'm trying to go with how I'm feeling and what and I feel what's coming into. It's really weird. This guy, okay, so this is for law enforcement too. That's going to have to chat to this guy. I can say this. Two things are going to happen with this guy. If he's my guy, two things are going to happen. He's going to not stop talking. He's going to want to talk and talk about everything, or he's not going to give you anything. And that's frustrating, but, well, that's going to be frustrating for the investigators. Something to do with, 2023 was to do with my serial killer. Huge. And again, like I say, mere days away from 2023, and this happens, and this guy is already a serial killer, and they've caught him. It's like, are you serious right now? It's not. I'm not. But again, I'm going to come to my report in a moment. But yeah, just learning about the fact that he was trying to specialize in criminology, and I'm like, oh God, he's smart as well. Like, this guy's smart, so intelligent. But that will only take you so far, because ego and arrogance kicks in, and but he chose, which is quite scary as well, because when you think about what he was going into, had he not, if this is the same one, and he was my serial killer, and he was allowed to be active for decades, oh my God, no, there's no way. I'm going to call it divine intervention. There was a reason why I had to be sent to his energy frequency last year in April, flying by. I've had that video up since April 2021. So it's not like my information hasn't been out there, or the possibility of something to, but again, because it's what I do, and it's hard to get evidence, but it's I feel like it's coming to pass, and even now I think about it, and it's like, oh, I'm still feeling that punch in the gut, like, oh God, that's my intuition. Like, it's on par. It's on par, absolutely. Now, if he has not been active, and these poor students were his first victims, you stopped. I feel he would not have stopped. Not a chance in hell. No way. This guy is a quiet psychopath. He enjoys it, and I'm going to come to some data in the report. The profile I was able to get from visually connecting to and everything, connecting to his energy frequency. He takes evil to a different level. So let me just make sure I'm trying to cover all of this. But I'm trying to come back to mine too. And again, like I say, watching the live feed, the news conference today about this guy's arrest, it's like, oh God, it just felt like, I swear, I'm still going with my 75% that this guy is my guy. He's my serial killer. Thank God they caught him. But I do, and the fact that he's young. So if he was already active before Idaho students, no. So I've covered, move this out my way. I know I'm still really connected, because when I was sort of tuned in, like I say, when I came across the feed this morning, I'm like, oh my God, that picture, oh God, it was resonating, and it's like, oh no, oh my God, I wonder if this is, and it just felt like the past connection was coming back, and it's like, oh God, please tell me I'm not tapped into, is this it? Is this it? And then it was like, oh, we're coming up to 2023. So, I was definitely, I feel 75% certain. I mean, there's always that room for 25% where it's not. And it kind of disturbed me as well, because if he was going into criminology too, it's like when you find out the cops are bad, the bad eggs, as opposed to help and protect you and serve you with like killers, and it's like, oh God, it's like that, but with somebody like him, like if he'd have been allowed to continue to be active after getting his PhD in criminology, etc., it's like, what the fuck? None of us stand a chance against. That's what I'm saying. Evil will hide or try to hide in areas that you wouldn't think, but you have to think of every area. You have to. You cannot limit. Well, because also what I was feeling in my visual with this guy, it's like he didn't have any past. Like he had a good upbringing. Like educated and everything. Like there was no sort of trauma or anything. And if there was, I don't know, it didn't feel like it. It felt like there was no real reason for him to become a psychopath. And if there was, that was well hidden too. Yeah, that's just covering the brief, and that's just pretty much, I feel like I'm just covering, okay, that's for, okay. It's interesting that Pennsylvania, I'm going to grab my data report. Pennsylvania. If this guy is being active before the Idaho murders, and this guy has been active, and is from Pennsylvania. What is with, he lives in Pennsylvania. I swear to God, all the serial killers seem to come from Pennsylvania, don't they, in America? It's weird. Okay, first things first. This is PDPC02. This is my parapsychology collection data report. This was performed on the 26th of April, 2021 at 6:47 a.m. This is when I made the connection to his energy frequency. And this is exactly what I had to see. And it was like watching a video in segments, like, this is what he's doing, this is who he is, this is what he's hiding behind, and oh God. Now, let me just, right, I heard a name. I'm not going to mention the name here though, because the FBI might find that name intriguing, or they might look at that name and go, oh, what is with that name? It could be another influence. Year 2023. Then I heard Bundy had nothing on this guy. He will make love to you, then strike. I don't know what this is going to mean, but it may mean something to this guy. If he is my guy. Now, it's the smile. He had an evil smile. That's the one thing that's why I want to see. I want to see a picture of this guy smiling. He had an evil smile in the visual and everything. Then I heard serial killer. Then I heard it's a show for him. Again, a lot of what I'm discussing can be interpreted into many different things, into different ways. So, and then I heard like no past to blame. I'm not going to mention that. I'm going to leave that for the FBI. whether I should mention this though. This is complete. This is absolutely would make complete sense. Now, it may mean something, it may not. But what I heard was men his age, fuck. They don't make love. Everything's slow and calculated. And then obviously that can come under the realm of stalking, a way to get your prey. You would have to see guys his age today, they don't make love at all. They're not conditioned. First of all, most of them are addicted to porn, so there's no love making these days. Let's not sugarcoat the reality of. So I that made sense when I heard that. But in order to get your prey, you would have to change. You would have to adopt a different persona. You'd be fake. But in order to know somebody's movements or learn about somebody you're stalking or you're preying, well, you'd have to stalk them. The one you want or the one you want to pounce on, whatever, you would have to change your personality to appease that person. That doesn't mean you're gonna have a different personality or a different persona every single time. But that was interesting because I was like, oh God, seriously? Well, that makes fucking sense, especially these days, right? That's why I don't date. So, okay, right. So the visual I was seeing in one segment was him sat at a U-shaped desk table. I thought it could have been like a board meeting or something like that, or like a members, like this guy is known to the, I'm feeling like there was a small town, he was from a small town, or he was living in a small town, like a town feel, but like a board meeting or something like that, a community meeting, and there was this table. And now, again, everything can be open to interpretation. Now I'm thinking, I'd be intrigued to see how his classroom, in his criminology classroom, is set up. I'm not going to say any more than that because there is another possible victim. And if this setup looks like his classroom, the other victim was maybe possibly in this class. And there's a point of where this guy would sit, like this victim would sit too. And there's a reason why he targeted this guy, but I'm not going to say any more than that. So again, my guy, I'm going to call him Man A, because there's Man A in this visual and then there's Man B. Man B is the victim, who could have possibly been in his class. But I'll leave that to investigators if they look into this. My guy, my serial killer, was at least 6 feet tall, slender, with like a caramel sort of complexion. Now, if this guy goes to the beach and tans, he's going to have a beautiful colour, put it that way. Brown eyes, obviously brown hair. A large, dynamic smile. I really need to see this guy smile. It's really annoying me. He looks like any ordinary guy, any ordinary man. He could live right next door to you, and he did live next door to people. You would not even think about putting him into the category of a serial killer. Either mine or this Brian. Because this Brian is now a serial killer. Now, so yeah, in this visual, we can see on the sketch and everything, there's a motive why he may have targeted this guy. I'm going to leave a note for the FBI in this part. Then I've seen a different scenario taking place and it was horrifying and graphic, of two victims, a couple. Now when I go to Philadelphia, is it Pennsylvania? Now again, in my vision, what I was seeing was forest terrain, campsites, camping grounds, that sort of thing. If this guy's being active before these 4 students, you need to be looking in forest areas that he's visited in forest terrain. That's to law enforcement. Okay. When I was slightly discussing the killing MO, the difference in how these poor students were murdered to the other people I was visually seeing, not only is there a different method in the killing, it changes MO. Secondly, the weapon's different. I'm not going to mention that. I'm going to leave that because that is incredibly significant. If this is my guy, if this Brian is my serial killer, that's incredibly significant. Hopefully, though, again, let me just keep reverting just in case. If this was where he started getting active and he was stopped in his tracks, all of what I saw was avoided, intervened, like a divine intervention. If he's done it and he's been active before he was stopped, now, I was hearing spring break and I was seeing visuals of spring break on beaches and things like this. And I hear plenty of fish. Now, spring break. How would when you think of spring break, you think of students. This is why I kept feeling like this gut, somebody was kicking me in the gut. As soon as these poor students were murdered, I'm like, oh God. Maybe it wasn't spring break. Maybe it's to do with students. A spring break, when you hear a spring break and you see it, you think of students immediately. College students. That's why you had to be open to all interpretations of data that can come in, especially, again, how I gather it. So, and like I say, that's why I was so focused on, there's something about this case, these murdered students. There's something very familiar about it. There's something I don't... And that's why it was triggering me. It was triggering my investigation. That's why I still feel 75% is my guy. And the way he, again, a persona, the way he would interact with women. He's very good looking. He don't need to chase. They just come to him. I'm not going to discuss that method of either. This guy is not your typical clumsy antisocial. My guy is not your typical clumsy antisocial, uneasy or socially sort of clumsy type at all, or ignored. Is not anything like that. He is the guy next door. He's probably got loads of friends. He's very social. He's probably very sexually active, and he can get women. He's very good looking. And when you look at that picture of Brian, he's a good looking guy. He's a good looking guy. That's what I'm saying. There's just, and because of what he was studying, he's not going to be antisocial. He's not going to be socially clumsy. He's going to be right there, like he can interact and everything. He's confident. I mean, my guy had serious levels of confidence and major ego. But it's his ego that probably tripped him up anyway. He has a type. That's all I'm going to say about that. Now, my summary report back then on the 26th of April 2021. Okay. If he's already active, I felt like if he's already active, the authorities know. Or maybe they don't know, or they haven't connected the dots. But that would not surprise me. If they're aware of a serial killer in a different state and he's moving around and he's from one state, like let's just say Pennsylvania, let's just use him as an example. He lives in Pennsylvania and he comes to Washington State, and his college is somewhere else. Well, it may take the authorities a little while to connect the dots, but if he's changing his killing MO, that's gonna cause a time lapse too. They're not going to connect the dots as fast or as easily. So they may have been aware of an active serial killer, but will never be able to place him anywhere specifically until, unfortunately, they either her. If he, I'm not saying he is, just if he is my guy, and I'm not saying he's been active or anything, I'm saying, I'm feeling like he could be my guy. 75%, I'm 75% sure this guy is my guy, but he might not be. There's 25% chance he's not. And again, the year 2023 may be the year he becomes known. This is what I had to write. The case becomes public. Or the year he starts becoming active. Regardless, the year 2023 is important. Now, was he going to become active in 2023? He did this in November. That's literally just a couple of months from 2023. So, he may just start 2 months earlier. But we're going to know about it. It's going to become public knowledge in 2023. And again, we are mere days away. Now, I also felt like this guy could make Ted Bundy look like an amateur. Oh God, if this guy was active, and he's my guy, and this guy was active, yeah, he's going to make Ted Bundy look like. But again, I also feel like there's a Ted Bundy influence. Like maybe he was influenced by him. Definitely my guy was influenced by Ted Bundy. I felt the one thing that connects these two men was charisma, charm, captivating smiles, and the ability to socially interact and draw women to them. That was my connection with Ted Bundy and my serial killer. That was the very basic profile of who my guy was. It was the charisma that these two had in common. And, you know, again, a few little things, education, etc. Charm, captivate. It's that fucking smile. I'm serious. I need to see that motherfucker smile. So, but yeah, it was the charisma, the charm, the captivating smiles, the ability to socially interact and just draw women to him. It was all about the women. But again, there was a male victim. I saw my guy. There could have been more. I just didn't, but I only saw one. But he could have been his stress trigger. He could have been his trigger. Something about that guy. And there is, and again, like I said, there was, I heard what was placed with that guy. Again, but I don't want to say what that is because I don't want to mention it here. It's all going to come out. Now, let's just say, for example, I'm spot on. It hit this guy, Brian, is my guy, and this all comes out after numerous court battles and all that crazy legal stuff, right? Then I can really discuss more about the report. I can really go into everything because I was able to sort of like profile him and everything, just in the connection. So, but let me just go back to two things are going to happen with this Brian guy. Because, like I say, regardless, the guy's a serial killer now. Two things are going to happen. He's either going to say nothing at all and give nothing and go for this whole charade, saying and doing nothing, or he's not going to stop talking. But it's interesting as well because, I will say this. When I connected to his energy frequency back in April 2021, there was a moment. See, I don't know if I was seeing in real time what he was actually doing in real time, but there's, again, state difference in times and stuff like this. Time zones. But there was a moment, and that's why I sometimes feel like it was in real time, but I was in this meeting, like looked at, again, at this table, and I was watching him and I was drawn to him, and then I saw this other guy. But then there was a split moment when he looked directly at me and he saw me. And he just kind of like backed off, and it's almost like the moment our energy frequencies connected, he was seen. He knew he was being watched. it would be intriguing to mention that to him. Maybe see if April 2021 triggers a freak out. That it felt like somebody was watching him or seeing him. Well, yeah, I was, because I was sent to him. Something to do with him being a pillar of the community. Where he lives, or where he's from, or he was a pillar of the community somehow. Again, it would be a great way to hide your persona of who you're pretending not to be, who you're hiding behind. These guys these type of serial killers can blend in. I am going to, so like I say, I've actually so I will be sending that report off to Special Agent Dennis Rice at the FBI. Now, I'm going to be monitoring this case incredibly close because, like I say, I just feel there is a strong pull, a magnetic pull. I don't know what, and it makes sense to me. There's a very possibility we've caught my guy. I'd love to discuss more what's in my report, but I don't want to because, again, I don't want to cause any sort of contamination when it goes, because everything, again, it's data. Whatever does come to light, if it's my guy, and everything you learn about this guy in 2023, about what he did and why he did it, etc., if it tallies up with my data, can you imagine what that's going to do for paranormal science and parapsychology? This is why I gather data. This is why I do what I do. This is why I do my investigations. It is very hard to prove my field. There's something to do with my field. There's something to do with the mind, abilities, human abilities. We've all got them. But you've got to know about them, and then you've got to develop them, and then you've got to master them. So it's a very complex, again, it's a very complex field, parapsychology. But when you understand it and when you work with it, and there's levels of consciousness too that go into it. And I use these abilities to be a different type of investigator. So as a parapsychology and paranormal investigator, I choose to do things differently. That's why I like to work in cold cases. When I know how to connect to a frequency of a victim, I always see out of their last memories. And I'm connected. Look, death is not the end. It's just when a person dies, the soul, the energy, we're all energy. It just moves to a slightly different dimension. Some people call them different locations. I do time to time when I'm talking about dimensions. I use when I'm discussing, like when you die, your soul goes to a different location. It just means dimension. The dimensions are all around us. It's just tapping into those dimensions. That's all. Some call them locations. Some call them dimensions. Some call them depending on where you are in the realm of spirituality. You'll call them what you want because people just make up shit all the time. But I know a lot of spiritual people that don't call them locations. As far as I'm concerned, it's a location. It's a slightly different location. A dimension is out of sight. It's non-local. So I call that a different location. That's why I refer to sort of, that's why I'll say dimensions or locations. It means the same thing to me in my world. But the energy just again, it just moves to a slightly different dimension. But once you know how to tap into those dimensions, and with your mind and the ability of your mind, through major transcendental meditation or major meditation, etc., you can connect with those energies. Like, I'd love to sit in the same room as him right now. This guy, to see if he's my guy. Oh God, if I was sitting in the same room as him right now, if he's my guy, I would freak him out to the point where he'd be like, "Oh God, I need to tell all." Because there's things, if he's my guy, there's things I know that he doesn't even think it's possible for anybody to know. So, but I'm not that sort of investigator, unfortunately. But would I love to sit in a room with him right now? I feel it would start talking. Now, I'm just going to end this. If law enforcement, I guess this my tips. I'm giving you tips here, right? Tips come in many different forms. And like I say, in the conference, they're all about, it doesn't matter what type of tip comes in, tips of all kinds, right? There you go. Well, this is mine. Have at it. It's not rocket science. It's not hard. But if you suspect this Brian Christopher Koberger has been active or has done something else before, or you suspect he's murdered before, just go back to where he's been located, and you need to be looking in forest terrains within 10 to 20 miles of him. Then you need to start looking at missing young women. And if there is missing young women, I don't want to say any more than that because, but you know what you're looking for. I'm trying to say that. Then you need to be looking in these forest terrain areas, just in case he decides not to speak, to keep, to go really quiet. Because I feel like he's either going to one way or the other. He's going to stay silent all the way through, and it's just going to, the whole, it's a show to him. It's going to feed his ego in the most, because he really believes, no, I'm not going to feed his ego any more than that. But, you're not going to be able to shut him up. Now, but again, this guy, let me just make sure I'm saying it so nobody can twist my words. Brian Christopher Koberger may not be my guy, but he also may be also my guy. He could be. It's a possibility. Either way, something about my guy is coming to light in 2023. So, and he looks very similar to my guy, which is why I feel like I'm giving it that 75% chance you may have caught my guy. Thank God for that, right? So, it's hard to, it's very hard to just sort of have to try and explain what it's like in my field and not be able to prove it, but we have amazing, look, the FBI are amazing agents and investigators. Law enforcement, etc., they're all amazing investigators. They're all this is why I always say I'm not quite sure why people think they can just become a serial killer in the freaking 21st century. They're not. That's ego. That's like arrogance and everything. You cannot. Technology is far too advanced. And if technology won't get you, somebody like me will see you. Or will get sent to your energy frequency by a higher freaking source, right? To keep an eye on you, gather data. So there's no getting that you can't. No. Back in the day, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, all of those serial killers back from then are all getting caught now because of amazing technology and advancements. Trying to be a serial killer in this day and age, you're just delusional. But again, depends on your mind. So, but yeah, like I said, they did mention today in that press conference, obviously he lives in Pennsylvania. I would highly recommend 10 to 20 miles around where he lives, if there's forest terrain, or go into for. I just don't know why. I feel strongly about that for some reason. I know they didn't discuss the motive and whether or not these are the reporters, but whether he knew the victims or not. Well, that remains to be seen. You're going to know all about that in 2023. You're going to know everything in 2023. That's my point I'm trying to make. You're going to get to know it all. But I just personally think I already know it all anyway. I already know. There's just this, yeah. Again, I'm gonna stick with my stance on this. Is there is a 75% chance Brian Christopher Kohlberger is my guy. The investigation I did back in April 2021. On the 26th of April, that's right. And again, because of that strong pull towards this horrific murder of these poor students, seriously, their lives are starting as well. It really pisses me off. Because there was just a pull, a draw to these murders, and there was just something triggering in my memory, and all it kept doing was, it just made me feel like, is this guy my guy? But I didn't want to focus too much on it. The only reason I felt, big time 75% was when I saw the picture of him today. I went through my Facebook feed today. I'm like, he looks familiar. 28. Okay, so my guy was like mid-30s at the most. But this guy, Chris, looks a little bit older than 20. I mean, he could be. If I didn't know him, I'd be like, in one picture he looks like 35. In the other one he looks pretty young. But he still resonates with what mine. That's why I feel so strongly about it. It's just tragic, absolutely tragic. And again, when I go back to, I feel like if he was to give a motive for why he killed those, am I talking about mine now or him? I hate this. Right. Sorry, I'm just connected to energy. So, if we're talking about my guy, it's just a psychopath. It's his arrogance. It's just not wired right. It's just evil. Again, there's no real past to justify his psychosis at all. It's just arrogant. And maybe he's watched far too many movies or all that kind of crap. And it could be to do with social conditioning. Now, if this Kohlberger, I don't know anything about his past. But if he has no past, again, it's that same arrogance, that ego, that unhealthy ego. Look, we have two types of ego. We have the healthy ego that keeps us motivated and pushes us ahead, etc., where we can use it to heal from. Or we have the unhealthy ego, which makes us arrogant, egotistical, a piece of shit. And sometimes the worst type of human beings you could possibly be, right? Depending on where you want to take that ego, that unhealthy ego, to the level, it depends on that person. And it can also depend on what they've dealt with, what they've been through, etc. But if this Kohlberger has no real traumatic past or anything, then he's just, I personally think it's to do with more social brainwashing, conditioning, mind control, through freaking predictive, for everything that's wrong with society, from Hollywood to like everything that's wrong with the world. Always, it's like the road leads back to Rome. Well, this kind of evil shit always leads back to freaking Hollywood and all like sinister shit, right? It does, and everything to do with porn, everything to do with what's wrong with people with various addictions, etc. Oh God, it could take all day to try and explain social conditioning, but that's how it is. Rejection. I felt like with my guy, his trigger was a woman, but the reason for killing the guy, he was a trigger. He was a stress trigger too, but it's to do with this young. I mean, she could have been his major. She could have been the one that rejected him. Now, so whether, and that's my guy. Now, whether this is what you're dealing with this Kohlberger as to why he killed these young women and this guy too, and the students, There could be a level of rejection, I mean, I don't feel like he's antisocial though, at all. And if he is a bit antisocial, it's probably by choice. But I feel like he just blends in. Like it's hard to say with that one. But again, we'll get to know more about him. We're going to get to know more about him whether we want to or not. Because he killed 4 students. I mean, really? Bit of a coward, really, when he has to do it while they're asleep. Really? What does that tell you, really? Evil. And evil's a choice. So, I need some water. So anyway, that's kind of my little tips and advice I can give to law enforcement if you come across this. Like I say, I'm going to get this report off to the FBI. But right now, I'm monitoring and I'm intrigued to see exactly how much we're going to get to know about this guy, because it's going to be a lot. And we're going to get to know. And it's just incredibly ironic that it is 2023. Other than that, I'm just going to leave that there. Interesting times, interesting end to 2022. Weird. But don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I will see you all again very, very soon. And I'm also the leading paranormal and parapsychological investigator on any of my cases. Now, if you want to learn a little bit more about me, what I do and why I do it, you can go to my website. There are links directly to my website from here. If you do need to book, I do have 2 types of services when it comes to the parapsychology or paranormal investigations. You can book me physically, but you do need to make an appointment if you need to come and see me. I'm here in Arizona. I am appointment based only, but I can actually go out to you guys and gals too. Or you can use the remote service, which is the online service. It's just as effective. Energy is energy. I'll connect to energy, and I use the remote viewing method. And